Oftentimes, in the background footage of my videos, some people kind of watch this and sometimes they take note of the fact that you always kind of seem to be doing things on your own. You never really have a lot of videos where there's organized gameplay. Yeah, it pops up here and there, but for the most part, you just seem to be looking for opportunities when you're out in the universe. And that really is the essence of what pirate gameplay is most likely going to be in Star Citizen. When people sit there and they say, oh man, what if an Idris comes after you? I'm not worried about it. What if the entire UEE Navy fleet comes down on top of you? I don't care. I don't worry about it. When people talk about capital ships and capital ship capabilities, I look at things that are better for sneak attacks, something like the Polaris or the Nautilus, possibly as something of an ambush ship. When I look at something like the Retaliator, yeah, there is an anti-capital capability in that ship, but there's also the capability of just eliminating a smaller ship's shields in one shot or severely crippling it with one torpedo. That's where the interest really lies for me with these ships, because Star Citizen for pirates is going to be very much one of the very few MMOs out there that truly embraces kind of like solo, almost in a weird way, I would say almost casual gameplay. And for pirates, this is probably the best approach, because one of the more difficult points to kind of get across to people when they're looking at the big capital ships, certainly, is when they buy it, they say, should I get it? I can afford it. Whatever it costs, I can afford it. I can eat this. So I can spend whatever hundreds or even sometimes thousands of dollars on a capital ship. But there are kind of unspoken complications to operating that capital ship. A Javelin or an Idris might require absolutely tons of players to operate at peak efficiency. Sure, you can fill certain roles with NPCs potentially, but there are other roles that are probably going to be, in all honesty, much better with a human player who knows what they're doing at those controls, engineering, whatever. All of that, it requires you to not only be online, but be online when other people are online that want to crew your ship and do the thing that you do. It's very much built around the idea of organized gameplay. Like Saturday night is raid night. We all get together. We do this thing. Whereas the pirate lifestyle, because it's so, I don't know, is transient really the right word? More like a vagrant, a vagabond, a wanderer. You're kind of going around and you're looking for opportunities to raid, to take things, whether it's armor off of dead NPCs or whatnot. You're kind of looking for opportunities to scoop up whatever you can when you can. Because, when I look at it, I realize the fact that a lot of the gameplay in Star Citizen isn't going to really focus around, for me at least, sitting around and waiting for other people to log in. It's going to be, if I want to play Star Citizen, I want to play Star Citizen. So I look at things from the point of view of how do I best build things around the idea that if I want to go raiding and I want to steal armor or whatnot from NPCs and build up my stores, or just stealing armor for the chance to sell it back to NPCs and make more money off of a mission or something like that, I choose ships and I choose ideas that kind of allow me to do that whenever I log in. Things that aren't really so dependent on having other people there. There's really, in more traditional MMOs, I feel that there's really nothing worse than logging into a game and not being able to do anything. It's not a question of not having something to do, but it's not being in a situation where you can do the things that you want to do because the right people aren't logged in, and maybe you don't want to just form a pug group. And certainly in Star Citizen, it's going to be a little bit more dangerous to form a pug group, other than, let's say doing a dungeon in World of Warcraft or something like that, where it's like, this other rogue is trash and he keeps pulling all this extra, all these extra NPCs and ruining the dungeon run for us. We're trying to time this, so that's a disappointing experience, but you don't know who's on your ship. If you just pug random players, they might be feeding your location to somebody else. There's a lot of things that you have to worry about. Some people, when they look at capital ships, they say, oh man, how are you going to fight a capital ship? And, or the classic one. I love to bring this up because it was just such a wonderful thread, because it was so illustrative of people's misconceptions of how combat was going to work in Star Citizen. A player put up this thing and he said, if I'm traveling in a convoy with an Idris and all these capital ships and they're protecting me while we're running trade, how do you pirates plan to attack us? And the answer was obviously, well, we won't. What we're going to do is we're going to look for the guy who isn't in the convoy, or we're going to look for the NPCs that are easy pickings. We're here to just steal and bounce. That's what we're here to do. And so when I look at certain ships that I have, the bigger things are more built around, just having the right thing in case a certain opportunity arises. But even when I look at a ship that I love, like my Reclaimer or like my Caterpillar, I realize full well that chances are most of the time that I'm playing the game, I'm probably going to be flying something like the Corsair or a similar size ship, and pretty much flying that probably with even NPCs manning the turrets. And if the opportunity arises to get a friend in the co-pilot seat, so much the better. But if that opportunity isn't there because certain people haven't logged in, then it's still a ship that I would say for minor raids is probably going to be fairly soloable. There is obviously an upper limit. You have to be realistic. You can't sit there and look at the ship and say, good for all situations, A through Z, always going to work. That's not true of any ship, right? But if you pick your battles and you're careful, then it should work out just fine. You just got to make sure that your eyes aren't bigger than your stomach, so to speak. When you're sitting there and you're looking at, a big Star Citizen sale, a whole bunch of ships are up on offer, and you're thinking, oh man, maybe this is the time that I melt my entire fleet and just put everything into like a Polaris or a Nautilus or something like that. It's important to have a variety. It's important to make sure that when you're kind of laying that foundation for your future gameplay, which you very much are when you're buying these ships, it's important to not paint yourself into a corner, to not trap yourself into a point where you never want to be in a situation where you log in, you're just saying, because whatever X is, because X is not true, I can't really do anything in the game today. Because my friends aren't logged in, I can't fly my Polaris. Because my friends aren't logged in, I can't fly my Idris or my Kraken or whatever. Having ships like that, if that's your thing, is fine, is cool, but always leave yourself an open door, an option that you choose to pursue, because one day you may be out there with 20 other people getting into a big fleet battle with a number of NPC haulers or even other players. But by and large, the rest of the days, you're probably going to be doing more mundane things like raiding bunkers for armor and guns and things like that. It's important to have options. It's important to always have a place to go and a way to enjoy the game and play the game. And trapping yourself into one ship or in one idea is not really the best way to go about things. Having a variety of ships that allow you to kind of log in and just say, okay, what's the lay of the land here? You know, what is the best way to, if not finish a goal or complete a goal, but to just move the ball just a little further down the field. You know what I mean? Remember that Star Citizen isn't a game that has formal tier sets or, you know, item levels or anything like that. There's nothing that forces you when you log in to do the heroic dungeon or the mythic dungeon or whatever the equivalent is in whatever MMO that you enjoy, aside from Star Citizen. Star Citizen is a game that it doesn't have these little mile markers along the road that you have to hit. You can very much choose your path to success. It's not defined by, you know, someone else's game design ideas. It's defined by you every time that you log in. So there's no must have. There's no you should do this or you should do that. You should honestly do what a lot of people are doing when they play Star Citizen right now. Experimenting, knocking around different ideas and seeing what works, what's enjoyable, what's replayable, and then designing your fleet or building your fleet based off of opening as many of those doors as possible when you're playing the game. So that when you log in, you are actually free to enjoy the game in multiple ways and hopefully through multiple different types of ships and the gameplay that they open up, rather than being trapped in one big thing. Also, the need for capital ships when you're a pirate, I would say, is dubious at best. They're certainly going to have situational value, a great situational value, but day in and day out, they shouldn't be depended upon. Just because you hear XYZ Squadron has X amount of javelins or, you know, Idrises or whatever, it doesn't matter. That doesn't matter to you because you're going to be wandering around the galaxy. And having a lot of ships and having a lot of open doors means that you're not really, you're never really trapped, because you can kind of tuck these ships away in different spaces and different places within the universe, and then you can decide, hey, you know what, this system's kind of played out, it's not really working, I'm going to go over here to where I've stashed this ship and I'm going to go do this thing. That sort of idea, trapping everything into one location. You know, some people lament the idea that we're going to have to transport ships all over the universe, and having to move your fleet from one place to another is going to be a real pain in the ass. Maybe you really don't even want to do that. You just want to find out what systems a certain ship works best in, and then keep that ship there, and then in another system, you put the other ship there. Always leave yourself open doors. Remember, when you're a pirate, a lot of the time you're going to be kind of doing your own thing. And that's one of the more attractive things for me, at least, when looking at Piracy and Star Citizen. There's so many different ways to enjoy it.
Thank you for watching. So if you want to keep up with the latest and greatest in Star Citizen and Squadron 42's development, please follow us on our social media channels. See you soon.